Thank you, and thank you for having me. It's a real privilege.
So you are Claire Kerslake from clairekerslake.com, and I thought it would be really nice to start with where you are now. So if you can tell us a bit about your business and life, where you are now, and then we'll move to how you got to here. So you can tell us from when you were born or anything that you want to up until how you got to this stage where you're at now. And then we'll finish by you telling us what your future's going to look like. How does that sound?
It sounds beautiful, Heather. Yes, sounds really lovely.
And I mean, I already know so much about you because we must have known each other now. I reckon it was probably 2019. What do you reckon?
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, it would be.
Yeah, so that would be 5 years.
Mm.
And we met in Tash Corbyn's takeoff program, didn't we?
We did, yes, yes.
And we were in a pod together. So we used to meet every week as peer support for our business growth. And yeah, it was brilliant. We did that for a couple of years, didn't we?
We did, yes. It was amazing, gorgeous.
And I have been your client, your EFT client, and you have been or are, you're very open about that. So I don't think I'm going to get the way there. You are my client. And yeah, so like we've paid each other money to work for each other, haven't we? I always like to say that because there's this big thing about are they just friends, so they're just bigging each other up, which we are friends and we do big each other up. But I would like people to know that we have paid each other. It's like money has exchanged hands for our services, and I think that's important to say. Not that it devalues if you don't, and that you are doing exchanges with people, but for me, that feels important to say.
Yes, and I think I feel very blessed to be your client, be working with you with my planning. It's because it's a total game changer for me. And also I love the fact that we can be each other's client. And, it used to be once upon a time you had that distance between yourself and the client, and that just wouldn't happen. You wouldn't, use each other's services. But we're skilled in different ways, and I just love that part. And it's part to me of supporting other women and lifting other women up. So I really love that and treasure our friendship as well. And we can be friends as well as clients and etc. So I really think that's special.
Yeah. So let's dive in with tell everyone about what you're doing now, because I know you, Claire Kerslake, EFT practitioner, but perhaps you'd like to tell the people more about where you are now.
Yes, certainly. And as you say, I'm an EFT practitioner, and I kind of stumbled on EFT. I was a nurse and came across this weird modality that was supposed to be good with cravings, and I thought, oh no, too good to be true. You know what they say? It's too good to be true. It probably is. Well, here's one exception to that, at least one exception to that rule. And unfortunately, I discounted it because it was just a bit too out there. Even though I'm quite woo now, it was just one step too far, really, back then, which is
were you woo then, or were you not really woo then? As the woo come
not really. It's kind of, I was a little bit, but not really. It's kind of developed over my life.
Yeah.
And then I became aware of the research, and of course, I was hooked then. And, in my life, one of the biggest things I wanted to do was make a difference. That's what I wanted to do. And I never felt I really did. I probably did. Yeah. But I just am so blessed that I get to make a difference. And I get to do something that just lights me up and fills my heart with joy. And I just feel incredibly blessed to be able to do both of those things. And with the work I do, a lot of it's with women in business, not all though. Mm-hmm. And the shifts that I see and the clients that I work with, they're miraculous. It's so transformative. and it fills my heart with joy. And I know it's had the same effect on my life as well. And I'm very blessed.
So can you give some examples to people who don't know EFT, or the sort of things people might come with, or what is these miraculous results? Can you give some examples? Obviously not specific clients, but just the kind of things that people might come with.
It's so interesting. And EFT is not the only modality this happens to, because I used to teach meditation. It used to happen with meditation too. And it's, you know how when you're in the midst of a problem and you can't hardly even imagine a way out, like it just envelops you. So imagine that problem is now gone, and you can't hardly even remember it, you ever had that problem. And that often happens. And it comes as a bit of an afterthought. Like it might be that someone, for instance, has had, visibility blocks and wouldn't show their face. And I often see, and people say, oh, photo of puppy for attention. I want to see their face. I want to see their puppy. I'm sure their puppy is gorgeous. I want to see their face. And I think, oh, I wonder if you've got some visibility blocks. And to then have that person be, off showing selfies and, it's just nothing. It's just what they do now. Or it might be someone, and I, am a reforming workaholic, thanks to your help as well, perhaps who wouldn't even think of taking a day off, and then might mention in conversation, oh, yes, we went away for the week. There's nothing. It's just, but the thought of doing that previously was just impossible. Oh, no, that couldn't possibly happen. I couldn't possibly step away from my business for a day.
Yeah.
And it just is, oh, no, that happens. And this is probably illustrated most in the trials around food. And so, for instance, a lot of the research around EFT and the clinical EFT that I do is very sort of very high quality. So they would follow people up at 6 or 12 months. So they might ring someone up and say, oh, hi, Anne, remember you were in that study? Oh, yes. And they say, how the Kit Kats going? And Anne would say, Kit Kats? What Kit Kats? I remember, Anne, you were having 10 Kit Kats a day. Oh, yeah, no, I don't do that anymore. And so something that was such, I love that example because it's so concrete. Yeah, it's gone. And you don't even remember you had it. What's some other examples that I see? Lots of different ones. Yeah, they show up a lot in business, a lot around visibility, around money. So things that previously perhaps a comparisonitis might come in. You see someone doing really well or celebrating a best ever month, and you don't want to feel like this, and you get cross at yourself for feeling like this, but you think, oh, I just want to scratch your eyes out. I love it, but oh, why can't that be me?
Yeah.
Two, oh, isn't that lovely? And being able to celebrate with every cell of your being. You want to do that, but if you've got a block around that and around scarcity thinking and money, even though you want to do that, you can't. Yeah, it's like a knife in your heart. Why isn't that me? So just to have that gone is miraculous. It's just so good. Yeah.
It's interesting because while you're thinking, I was thinking, well, I could share some examples from the work we've done together. And I'm thinking, I can't think of it.
Yeah, I know.
One though that I can remember is my French. We've worked with my French because I have really struggled with my French, and I have a lot of stuff going on around that. And last week when Vanessa, who's in the group, is here, we went shopping to Annecy, and I found these beautiful orgonite pyramids, and I asked the man in the shop in French if he could explain orgonite pyramids to me. which, you know, to a lot of people, that probably doesn't sound like very much. But there is no way, I can tell you, there is no way at all I would have done that before having EFT with Claire. I just wouldn't. I'd have looked it up on Google in English and then gone in and bought them. There's no way. I'd have thought, I won't understand what he's saying. There's no point. He won't understand me. It's too complex. All that stuff. But I was in there, I was looking at, and I just found myself asking him. And I was like, oh. And,
it warms my heart, but that's so typical. That's what happens. Another example from my life is that I've just done in Australia, our financial year goes July to June. So I've just done my end of year, all the books, and done the reports up. And the report probably, let's say, just wasn't quite as good as I'd hoped. And in the past, this time would be full of shame. And, you know, I'd have to give the reports to my husband, and he might say, you know, something that perhaps wasn't ultra supportive. And I dread it. Like I did it yesterday or the day before. I said, oh, okay, let me dig into that. And there was a real sense of, is there anything we need to alter? You know, what do we need to do here? There was a real sense of lightness, self-belief, confidence. And yes, a huge difference. So, yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. And another one example that I know it can really help with is relationships.
Yeah.
If you're having a struggle with someone, whether it be family or in business, you've really helped to, what's the word? It's like that there's a charge to whatever situation has happened. And then once we've worked through it, there's no longer a charge. It's just like, yeah, that happened, but it's okay. I'm okay. They're okay. Let's move on.
Yes.
And that's huge. I think for me, that's it's a really powerful modality.
Certainly is. Yeah.
And it's interesting because you said about you want to make a difference, and you certainly are. There's no doubt about that. It's I know how many 5-star reviews you have, for example. A lot. It's interesting that you said you don't think you really made a difference before. You probably did, but from my perspective, I'm like, but you were a nurse. Of course you made a difference. And I was just curious about that that thought.
Yes. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I guess I had big dreams, huge dreams, worldwide dreams. Yeah. Okay. And I could impact my little corner of the world. And sometimes, you know, as a nurse in a public hospital, and in many respects, it's quite demoralizing because you want to deliver top quality care. But if you don't have the staffing to do that, you know, you'll have worked your little heart out and not have provided enough good care, even though you've done everything you could to do that. I mean, obviously, I had a 30-year career 30 plus years in nursing, and I've seen more than most people will ever see. And there was a lot of life and death stuff there. And obviously I did make a difference. And that was a goal. You know, if you could just make one person's life a bit better, you don't know, it might be a smile, might be a kind word, doesn't matter. So in that respect, I probably did, but I had huge dreams as well that drove me. Yeah.
And now you are doing that worldwide thing, because you literally do work with people all over the world, don't you?
Yeah, I do, which is amazing. The technology, I sometimes think I was born in a different time, because back in the day, oh my goodness, it was not easy like this. Yeah, it was very difficult, like quite. Oh, yeah.
But it's funny as well, isn't it? Because those of us who've come into online business in the past 5, 6, 7 years, we don't know what it was like before.
No,
So what was it like before, Claire?
it was amazing. Like, you think about life without a mobile phone. Like, I've lived that. Think about, if I remember I ran a group program very early on, because that's what you were told to do, and people had to ring in on their phone, and you yeah, it was incredible with the webinar. That was all tricky as well. It was very glitchy, and you hoped that you had enough bandwidth for your slides to upload, and it's so beautiful now and seamless. What else?
Because there's just new apps all the time, isn't there, to help us, like to help you run an online business.
Yeah. I wasn't someone, and I suppose because kind of Google has come along in my lifetime too. People say, what will you Google? Well, it's only really, really recently that I use Google much more. Before then, you just sort of stumble around in the dark and really don't know. And there wasn't the supportive Facebook groups either. Being in business was very lonely. You didn't have the beautiful connection that we have. There wasn't lovely like your group, and there are a few other beautiful groups that they just didn't exist. Yeah.
I mean, that's how we met, didn't we? If Tash Corbyn's group wasn't a thing, then we wouldn't even know each other.
No.
It's incredible, really.
So we're very fortunate to have that connection and support.
Yeah.
And I just think even in out of my lifetime, like, my mother's time, my mum died when I was little, when I was 3. But Dad sent her sister was overseas in Canada. Dad sent her a telegram, because I think to make a phone call overseas was like a week's wages.
Oh my God.
Like, that's the type of technology that was around. I mean, obviously that was years ago, but we're just so blessed now to be able to have the reach. Like, that's what thrills me, that I can literally, and I have a number of clients overseas. It's wonderful that you can, the world's your oyster, literally, in terms of reach, making a difference for people to be able to reach you. It's incredible. Yeah.
And I know as well, the fact with that worldwide thing, I know that the people you work with, and this isn't because you've told me who you work with, because I know that you one of your things is you're very ethical.
Strict on confidentiality.
Very strict on confidentiality. You're incredibly ethical. But I've seen your testimonials on the internet, so I know who you work with. And you work with people who are making a big difference. So it's like there's that ripple effect.
Oh, that really, that ripple effect is extraordinary, because I kind of think of myself a bit like a catalyst. And then if that person steps out and shine, and that person will help other people who desperately need that help. But if she is hiding, that person won't find her. And, that makes me a bit teary, really, because I've been in a situation where I've been desperate for help, desperate. And, if that person is hiding or saying, no, I won't show my face, or, I can't put that post up today, or, they're just run by fear. And I understand exactly what that's like, which is why I'm so passionate about it. Then that person won't get help. They can't find that help. So, yes, it's such a passion for me. Yeah, I feel really strongly about it. Yeah.
And that just shines through in everything you do.
Thank you.
So tell us how you got to here then. You just said that your mum died when you were 3. It's like, I'm so sorry, that's tough.
Yeah, it was tough. I only have some little memories of Mum. She died at 43, so she died young, but she'd been sick for years, so it was kind of not unexpected. I'm a twin, so I often say, we were 3, and we got brought up by a beautiful family. My mum had organised it all with her dad's brother and his wife brought us up, because in those days things were very different. Dad had a property, and the thought of looking after 2-3-year-old twins it just wasn't done back then. So we had a very close relationship with Dad as well. So so grew up in the country, and in those days, once again, there wasn't the opportunities. You could be a nurse, a hairdresser, or work in the local shop. They were the sort of kind of 3 options I was presented with. And so I kind of didn't really know what I wanted to do, but thought I might like to be a vet, kind of liked animals type of thing. But that didn't kind of work out. I didn't have good enough marks at uni. And you had to be I was really bright, but it had to be do really, really well. And so Dad gave me a fob watch for Christmas, and that was it. It's decided I was going to be a nurse. And, I loved Dad for that, really, because he was doing the best by me. We were brought up to be very independent, and probably it's been a lifelong journey to learn to ask for help and receive help. But so that was the start of my nursing career, and it served me well. I'm a real classic accumulator, as is my husband. And,
Can you explain what accumulator means to those people who don't know?
Well, it's kind of, you put money aside for your future.
You're a saver.
A saver, that's right. And it tends to be, there's never enough. So you tend to, and we put a lot of money away. And so I've been able to ditch the job, which has been wonderful. And
so you took early retirement, is that right?
Yeah, I retired early, which was great. And I think I wouldn't have, if my last job hadn't been so dreadful, I wouldn't have. Sometimes the universe gives you a massive shove. And I love the story of the feather, the brick, and the truck, which is so. And I'm sure I'm butchering the parable, but the story goes that if maybe you follow an inkling that you need to change something, it's like a tickle of a little feather from the universe. No, don't get that message. And as a workaholic, no, definitely wasn't getting that message. So bang, brick to the head. Oh, well, perhaps I better do that. No, don't get that message. No, keep working. And perhaps the next thing is the truck, where you have no option but to get that message. Well, often it's taken a brick, at least a brick, if not a truck, to get that message through. And probably I'd probably still be working if I loved my job and if I'd been treated well. But it was probably, I think it was pretty bad on every level. So
I can, because we were in our pod at the time, I can remember just like, oh my God, just the hours you were working, never mind any of the rest of what was going on in the job. It was just like.
And looking back, I can't believe how terrible it was. And I'm surprised I stayed as long as I did.
I think that's often the way, isn't it? I think many of us stay in places a lot longer than is necessarily good for us. But we get there when we're ready, don't we? Whether it be a feather, a brick, or
We do. That's
Get there
right.
in the end.
We absolutely do. Yeah. But,
Oh,
and I was going to say something and it's gone, but that's okay. So yes, and then I have the joy of we're living in our dream home in the Currumbin Valley in the Gold Coast, which is just we adore it. It's been a real journey for me to learn. I've had a real huge journey from my business, like from years ago, probably about 12 years ago now, my website's been up. I was terrified. My Facebook, I remember I was trembling when I first put my first Facebook post up because I thought I would be spammed. Someone's going to come in, take all of our money, we'll be homeless and on the street from my
wow.
Facebook post. Like I was really, really scared.
Wow.
And I remember my first webinar, it was like jumping off a cliff. It was amazing. I was scared of everything.
Wow.
And in those days, maybe you had to go to the back end of the website and to the cPanel. Oh, it was just terrible. And when I got my website, they had, I think there was 2 videos. That was the training for the website. They said, don't worry, off you go. You can't break anything. And I think 3 days later, I got back in touch. I said, it's doing this and this. They said, what did you do? I said, I don't know. You said I couldn't break anything. Like I had no idea. And I was a perfectionist. So the thought of a spelling error slipping past my
Eagle
was
eyes.
just mortifying. Oh my God. And someone said, okay, if you read your blog post backwards, you'll pick up spelling errors. So that's what I used to do. I'd put it up, spend days writing the thing, put it up, read it backwards, make sure there were no spelling error. And that's why I always chuckle when people say, oh, you know, I had a hater, they criticised me, I had a spelling error. Well, now, like I used to think it would be my contribution to someone, you know, because if I ever had a spelling error, please tell me. Like that would be a real service. You know, it'd be like, your only friends will tell you if you've got lettuce in your teeth.
Yeah.
You know, I
Or
think
if your
spelling
skirt's
errors.
stuck in your knickers.
Yes, that's right. That type of thing. And it was like when I did videos, and at that stage I'd do them on the camera because I think mobile phones were in, but they certainly couldn't do what they do now. And you know, I had the little card and I had my little backdrop set up, and then I'd run back, put it in the computer, no good, back we go, have another take. And I used to do about 100 takes, like per video. Like it was a really, and I was the type of person who needed a lot of hand holding. And there just wasn't there were no mindset support now. Now we've got, you know, kinesiology, of course, EFT. There's lots of beautiful mindset modalities to support us. Now it's just do it. Just go and do it. Off you go. And I needed much more hand holding than that, because I think in my identity, you know, I had this little box. I was a nurse.
Yeah.
And I would look at people successful in business and I'm thinking, are they, you know, how do they do it? Are they made differently? You know, how can they do it? It just seemed like a huge leap from where I was, and it was. But most of that is around identity and confidence. A lot of that mindset stuff is probably 90% of the journey in truth. Believing that I could achieve it. So, you know, the work that I do with women around that.
I'm just thinking about, isn't it interesting that there'll be so many people now looking at you thinking the same thing, people who are just coming into their business journey online, and they'll see you being so relaxed online and saying all your things, and you'll be that person that you were looking at going, are you made differently?
Yeah, that's right.
It's a journey, isn't it, for all of us?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, no, it's a beautiful journey. And, you know, back then people would say, enjoy the journey. And I think I wrote a blog post once, enjoy the journey. I don't want to enjoy the journey. I want to get there. You know, blow this, enjoy the journey, rubbish. And now I'm just, oh yes, enjoy the journey. That's the secret.
And you really do,
yeah.
don't you? You actually really do.
And I used to get so cross if I found like a block or a limiting belief or something. I think I worked on that last week, and here it is again. I would get so cranky. Well, now, and I know we've had this conversation. I can't even remember what it was the other day. I was outraged at something. It was so funny. Outraged. And I knew that it was not something to be outraged about. And that lasted a few seconds, and I thought, isn't this hilarious? And we were having the conversation, and I was laughing. It was so funny. Another block to clear. It's such a joy and
you've
a
really
delight
inspired
now.
me with that, because you're certainly ahead of me with that, because I'm definitely, and I'm getting better at, thanks to you, of when they come up of thinking, because you've modeled that for me of, oh good, here's another thing to clear, oh good, here's another thing to clear. Whereas certainly I've been much more, oh for fuck's sake, this again. How many times have I got to look at this?
Yeah.
Here we are again. Whereas,
yes.
I'm definitely like, getting to the point now where I'm like, oh, good. Another layer of this, and that's definitely thanks to you modeling that for me.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, seeing you go, oh, good, another thing to clear. I was like, really? It'd be like that, and it can, and it's so much nicer.
It is. It's so much lighter. And the other thing I think is really important is having a biz bestie, or being in a beautiful group like your gorgeous group, where with support and loving support, someone can say, have we tapped on that? And you think, oh, it's just enough to say, oh, yeah, I think I better do that. And I know you've had that conversation with me where I've not, I hope I've got great insight, but sometimes we can't see our own stuff.
We all have blind spots.
Yeah, that's right.
We always will do, and it's part of being human.
Which is where your beautiful group and having beautiful biz besties, they can reflect and say, oh, do we need to do some work here? In the most, loving, supportive way, which is gorgeous.
And it's interesting because Anne-Marie in the group is doing decluttering days, and they're brilliant, and she does tapping within the decluttering days.
Gorgeous.
And it's so interesting that until I was on her decluttering day, it had never, and I do tapping a lot on all sorts of things, but it never occurred to me, it never gone into my mind that that's a subject I could do tapping on.
Yes.
Like, how interesting that we know you can tap on any subject, and yet there'll be a subject that it won't have occurred to us that we can tap on. It's fascinating.
Yeah, no, that happens to me too. So you're not alone.
Is that just part of being human?
I think so. Yeah, I think. Yeah. So interesting.
And can you tell us a bit more about your property, because you do the most wonderful rainforest reflections, and your property is, oh my God, it's so stunning. I'm so coming to visit you one day in Australia.
You absolutely are.
I'm so
you are. You've got a standing invitation.
Because just tell us a bit about your property.
Yeah, we fell in love with this valley quite a few years ago, and we'd spent some time, flying up. And
how did you find it in the first place?
I had a friend living nearby.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we looked at a lot of places, and this particular trip we'd had about 4 or 5 houses to look at. We lived probably a 3-hour flight away at the time, 3-hour flight and a 3-hour drive to get to the airport. So quite a long way.
You must have really liked it.
Yeah. And anyway, I didn't actually want to see this house because it's quite a square house, and I thought the floor plan was a bit boring. And I said to Dave, I don't know that we'll see this one. Or he said, no, we'll see it. We're here now. And I'd always kind of felt a little bit homeless. You know, we moved around a bit, and I kind of felt like I didn't have anywhere I could call home. And stepped out the car, and it was like my soul said, yeah, this is it. I had such a strong connection that is probably even stronger today to this country, to this land.
Wow.
And the house was beautiful, and the views to die for. Everything's beautiful and green, and fell in love with it. And it was a real stretch for us to buy it. Like we got a loan, and it was almost out of our reach. Could only pay the interest on the loan for years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a beautiful example of manifesting and letting go. And all of that, I had to sell our house, and I tried everything. I got space clearing. I, buried the statue of, is it St. Joseph? I can't even remember who it was. I did everything.
Some saint.
Yeah, some saint in the upside down. I did everything I wrote letters to the house. I did absolutely everything, every woo thing you could possibly imagine to sell our other house. And finally, over a few years, I think it took 6 years for us to get here.
Wow.
And
so when you first bought it, had you intended to move into it straight away? If you'd sold the other house, would you have?
We couldn't afford to.
Okay.
No, we had to rent it, which almost broke our heart.
Okay.
Had to rent it to even pay the interest.
Okay.
And now we're in a position it's all paid for. We live here, it's all paid for. I love it every day. Yeah. Wow. It's I used to when we were in Darwin, I was working and wanting desperately to be here. I'd lie in bed, pretending I was lying in bed here. So it was a real acting as if, I really learned a lot of that manifesting to bring this into our lives. So it really is the most beautiful, beautiful space. The country is rainforest country, been heavily cleared, and the property's been used as a banana farm and a dairy farm, and we're restoring the natural rainforest, which is never worked harder in my life before, I don't think. But I just
like you didn't work hard enough when you were a nurse.
Well, that's right. It's a different type of work. Yes, yeah. On really steep country, it's like that, up and down. But beautiful. Yeah, it's a real I really understand that connection to the land.
Yeah, it warms my heart that you're restoring it back to its natural.
Yeah.
And you do little rainforest reflections, don't you, on your YouTube and do you do it on YouTube and your page, or is it just YouTube? I'm not sure.
I just use YouTube, and then I share it to my page and my newsletter list. And that's been a journey too, and a real lesson actually, because Miss Perfectionist here couldn't possibly do a YouTube that wasn't perfect and have all the right tags and all of that. And so it obviously didn't get done. And then I think it was conversation with your good self. Said, why don't you just, do a bit of a clear out on the property? Often I'm in my work clothes, and I did. And so they're very unpolished and been a real hoot. And I've had feedback from people who've watched them that said what a difference they've made. And so that's a real lesson for everyone, I think, that it was, a prime example of I wasn't doing that. And so I was depriving those people I wasn't helping those people. So, get out there, be imperfect, and you just never know what a difference you'll make. And they're fun and they're easy.
And I love them. Whenever one comes in your newsletter, I'm like, oh, it's a new one.
Yes. I mean, we've just been on a holiday to the Kimberley, and we were on this property in the middle of nowhere, really, barely any internet. And so I did one out there in the middle of nowhere, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, they really
So,
are, and they're always quite
mm,
philosophical. And
mm,
you always conjure. Oh, I don't know. You conjure good feeling, but you explain things in ways that makes them easy to understand, in a different way to
mm,
understand it. Because I think
yeah,
often with all these, it's like there's nothing new in the world, is there? But there's always a new perspective, a slightly different
mm,
perspective, and a way to help us to understand things more or better
yeah,
or differently. And yours
yeah,
always do that for
yeah.
me. Or things
Thank
I just
you.
haven't thought of, and then I'm like, oh yeah, it's like I
Yeah.
really enjoy them.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's beautiful feedback. Yeah. So,
And the other thing that you have in your property quite often is flipping massive snakes, which to us Europeans is just like, oh my God. The Americans have guns and the Australians have snakes. It's just
oh,
bizarre to us.
honestly, yes. And yeah, well, we live in the rainforest. We literally live, I look out of my window, which is just there, this rainforest there. And so, of course, you've got wildlife in the rainforest. So what can you expect? But I've become quite neurotic about, shutting doors and putting the light on when I go out into the garage. And yes, I grew up around snakes. Like we grew up as little tackers, 4. We were taught
As
what a
little
snake
what?
looked like. Oh, little tackers, little people,
I've
little
heard
kids.
that before.
Oh,
That's obviously an
haven't
Australian thing.
you? Must
Little
be, must
tackers.
be. Tackers, yeah. If you see something that's long and thin, you yell snake. And around here, you're not it's illegal to kill them. But we would have I think we've got the third deadliest snake would be here. Yeah, would be in and on our property. So I'm just careful. You're careful. You look where you walk. I stepped out last week into the garage, and we'd been leaving the garage door open. We will improve in the future. And of course, they're going to come in. But this was a lovely python, very quiet, but
Very
it
quiet,
could.
but very long.
He was big. He was a big one, wasn't he? Yeah, yeah.
Was
And
that
I
about
used to have
2 meters long?
about 2 meters. Yeah, I used to have a phobia of snakes, and I'm getting much better now. They have a healthy respect. But we've got, some wide walking paths we can walk, and we've got clear ground around the house so you can see. And, you wouldn't leave a window open without a screen, that type of thing on. You don't want the wildlife coming in. So I guess it's a different way of living. And my sister was house sitting while we were away. And so I thought, well, there's no point having a snake bite kit if they can't find it, if worst came to worst. So I had the snake bite kit and the first aid kit on the table. Well, she didn't go for a walk the whole time she was here. She said, I'm not walking. If there's a snake bite kit on the table, I'm not walking anywhere. So, but yeah, I mean, you're just sensible. And yeah, they're not, they'll try and get away if they can. Yeah, they're not gonna seek you out and kill you unless you don't want to step on one though. Yeah.
No.
So
Claire, what does the future hold for Claire and Kerslake.com?
Oh, lots of things. I can't imagine really ever stopping my business. I adore what I do, and I don't really think of it as work. I kind of say work, but I don't think of it as work. I just am so pinch myself that I get to do what I do, make a difference. And I plan on continuing to grow my business and the reach and the impact that I have. I don't quite know what that'll look like, but I'm very excited about what the future will bring. Yeah, because I talked about, the ripple effect of through the work. I think the impact that I have is twofold, and the impact of that the women I work with have is twofold. One is through the work that they do, which is life-changing and makes such a difference with the people that they work with. The other is through money. And women with money make a difference, whether it's, every time you buy something, that has a ripple effect because you're helping usually another small business. You might get a cleaner. So the people that you get to support you, or a VA or whoever it is. And I plan, that's been a huge life lesson, as you know, is learning to ask for support, receive support has been huge, particularly in the last 18 months for me. And so I plan on getting lots of support in my life. I'm already beautifully supported, but to increase that. And just because I'm able to pay those people money, they're able to then make a difference in their life. So there's quite a two-pronged ripple effect there that will make a big difference. Yeah. Yeah, we didn't even talk about that journey, Heather, that journey of asking for help and support, and my goodness.
Well, we've time.
Oh, goodness. Yes, that was a saga, wasn't it? From being a workaholic and knowing that, I needed to look after my health, but everything went behind, the job, the business, everything else got sort of shoved to later until I got really probably run over by the truck and broke my knee, and then had total of 6 fractures in about 7 months. And so I really had to learn to, it was a good lesson to focus on my health and to really walk my talk, because I wasn't acting according to my values, which was health, and to receive help. I had no choice. I had to ask for help. I was very dependent. I was in a wheelchair for 6 weeks. I don't think my clients, I might have said something. I think I had a week off when I broke my knee, and maybe a week off when I broke my back. But
I had 1 week off when I broke my back.
Yeah. And it was, every day there were lots of tears, and you just had to say, okay, it is another day closer to healing. And my journey now, I'm in the gym twice a week, building, because I have osteoporosis, it's not a secret, lifting heavy weight to build bone. And only last night, someone who's probably 10, I would say she's probably 10 years younger than me, said, "What are you squatting with?" I said, 40 kilos. She said, 40? You're my inspiration. I said, "You'll get there." I said, but I'm only doing this. I said, "That is amazing. It's a long game." And so it is in business sometimes. We want to be an overnight success. I did. I wanted to be an overnight success.
We want to go straight to the 40 kilos.
Yeah, that's right. And it's the journey, and it's amazing. It's amazing how far you get if you just keep plodding along and slowly improving. Yeah.
And wasn't there something about a fitness person thinking that you should be able to you should be further along than you were at the time, but you were absolutely steadfast in yourself of, no. Do you want to talk a bit about that?
Well, I'd previously thought, been one of these people, and probably perfectionist, set very high standards for myself, consider myself a high achiever, straight A student type of person. And over the years, you'd hear advice, okay, start with a 5-minute walk, don't sort of start with 30 minutes. And I go, 5 minutes? I can do an hour. A week later, you're on the couch sort of in agony. And pushing through pain. And then I had a chronic pain for a year after, because I'd done that. So I'd had a lot of hard lessons. And this particular person in a gym I was going to, and following my fractured back, said with this particular back exercise, you're only doing this. He said, you should be doing, and it was about 20 points, it's about 50% more. And I was, at the time, I was being very conscious because I was getting a bit of discomfort with that exercise. So I thought, no, I'm not going to push through. I'm just going to keep plodding along. I'll get there, but I will not push through this pain. And so, excuse me, I was very steadfast in that I've learned that lesson. I'm
and
just
you told her that, didn't you? That you'd
yeah, I'll get there,
past.
but I'm not going to push past. And that's probably an important lesson, I think. Sometimes in the work I do, I think you hear this, feel the fear and do it anyway, push through. And I think that's such bad advice, because often we end up rocking in the corner, or we just go into hiding and find that we haven't shown up, or we haven't done X, or we haven't done Y. And the reason is we haven't cleared that underlying fear or limiting belief or block, whatever it is. Similarly, with my health journey and my fitness, we just slowly get there. Make sure your form's right. Do it properly, and I will be lifting. I have absolutely no doubt. I'll be squatting with 60 kilos, in 6 months or a year. Because I've got that incremental improvement, and I'm doing it properly. I'm not trying to push through and doing it wrongly and damaging.
You are my inspiration too, Claire.
Oh, thank you.
And it just, I remember at the time, it really struck me when you were just so clear to that lady in the gym that it was just like, no, I will get there, and I'll get there when I'm ready. And look at you now.
Thank you. Yes.
Really incredible. And you're having good results, aren't you, with your
it's paying off. And I know it's a long game too. That's fine. Happy to play the long game.
And I'm sure that you can help many of us with our desire to go from here to the 40 kilos with your EFT, which you are so skilled at.
Thank you.
The EFT that you do is very close to like the original EFT by Gary Craig, isn't it? Who's the founder of it?
It is.
There's lots. I think EFT has evolved a lot in many ways, and I would, from my experience, yours is closest to the original. Would you?
I think so. I'd probably say that. And it's not to say that other EFTs are wrong.
No, not at all.
At all. They're just different. That's okay. What I love about, I guess, the EFT I use is there is a lot of research around it. It's clinical EFT, so it's been researched. But that research is good because it's building, confidence and credibility, which will help the technique expand in other areas and other, people who otherwise wouldn't be exposed to it. And that will extend to other modalities, other types of EFT as well, which is fantastic. So it's exciting. It's ever expanding. Is
there anything else you'd like to share, Claire?
We'll probably hang up, and there probably will be, Heather.
Well, I'd love for you to share how we can find you, obviously, but just wanted to check in if there was anything else you wanted to bring.
I think we've covered a fair bit, haven't we? Lots of life lessons, and that has been really lovely. So I'm easy to find. I'm Claire Kerslake EFT on Facebook, and my website's clairekerslake.com. And not hard
YouTube?
to find. YouTube, the same, Claire Kerslake EFT. I tried to make them the same because it's easier.
Brilliant.
And
if anybody has any questions that they would like to ask Claire, or anything else they'd like to know, then please do put them in the comments, because I'm sure Claire will come back and answer them.
Oh, that'd be lovely. Really, really happy to do that.
Thank you so much for your time and for coming along and letting us all get to know you better. I adore you. That's no secret. You've helped me so much in so many ways. and I love the work you're doing in the world. And thank you for being such a big contributor to the group as well. It's I really do appreciate it, and I appreciate you.
My pleasure. It's mutual, as you know, and I love your work. Makes such a difference in my life and business, and you've created such a special group. It's got a really beautiful, supportive vibe. I love it so much, and it's my pleasure to be contributing and spend some time there. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. All right, then let's sign off. I love you. And yes, do put your questions for Claire in the comments.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.